Kapag madaming nangyayari, ang tendency natin is to say, uy, lahat gawin ko. And it's nice to be a yes person, I get that. But sometimes at the expense of wanting to attempt to do everything, you lose focus and you end up not accomplishing anything at all. Can you relate to that? Lahat gustong saluhin. In times of changes, you need to go back to basics. So imagine this. If you remember COVID-19, when you go to the very onset of the pandemic, a lot of patients would go to the emergency room, and then a lot of doctors need to attend to them, pero doctors. Yes? So kunwari, 3 doctors, 100 patients. Question, what do the doctors need to do? That's right. Diba? In customer service and sales, may term po tayo dyan. We call this as triage, which is a French term which means to select, to filter. Pag masyadong madaming tao, kailangan segregate kung sino ang pinaka-urgent at sino ang pinaka-important. Here's the second part, when we need to do it. Some of the patients na, if there is no hope or chance of doing something to them, we have to let them go. Why? Because there's not going to be any benefit to it. You have to focus your attention to someone else who likely is going to benefit from your attention. This is triage. Question. We're all doctors in our lives. Yes? Who are your patients? Your clients, your emails, your SMS, your Viber, your WhatsApp, your Tinder dates are part of your patients. Everyone in your life is asking for your attention, and you feel compelled to say yes to all of them. Yes, I'll go to Boracay because I haven't been there for a while. Go if you need to. Yes, I have to attend my daughter's ballet recital. Go if you need to. Yes, I have to meet up with this client because this is an important client. Yes, go if you need to. But you also have to tell to yourself that you don't need to say yes to all of them. Because the more you give your yes, the more you give all your efforts and spread yourself too thin on so many things in life. Right? If you look at these folks, tell me who these folks are. And there's one thing common among all of them. They all have their own published books. Hindi po si Jackie Chan yan, ha? Si Jack Ma po yan. Right? Right? So if you look at their books and you look at Warren Buffett, this amazing quote that he says, for every 100 opportunities presented to me, I decline to 99 of them and focus only on 1 or 3 things. Trying to become too ambitious or pretentious. Wanting to do too many things will only weaken my focus. You look at Steve Jobs or you look at Apple as a company, and it's interesting to take note because if you look at an Apple store, you can only buy less than 20 items in their store. Yes? Let's count. iPhone, ano ba? iPad, watch, Mac, etc. Only a few things that you can buy. But the interesting thing is, meron po ba nagluluto? Parang may nagluluto sa background natin. Parang may nag-live selling sa TikTok. Cranberries at walnuts.
Mine daw, mine.
It's interesting to take note that there are less than 12 items that they sell, but Apple has more than 15,000 patents in the US Patent Office. More than 15,000. But Apple says, nope, we're not going to sell all of them because it's not part of the plan. We're going to keep them for the future, but we're not going to sell too many things, even if they're nice to have. Why? Because we only want to focus on where we're good at and where we need to be. And if you look at Apple, isa lang po binibenta nila. Technically, they're only selling one product. What is that? The brand, ano ba?
Technology.
iPhone? I think I heard it.
Technology.
It's the iOS. They're only selling the iOS. An iOS that happens to be placed in different hardware. You put an iOS into a smartphone, manufactured in China, designed in California, it becomes the iPhone. You put an iOS into a smartwatch, that becomes the Apple Watch. The future iCar is an iOS embedded in a car. Diba? The Apple Pro Vision is an iOS embedded into your VR gadget, for example. And the point here is if you focus on one big thing, That could be your legacy, and if you focus on that one big thing, that can lead to your success. Don't get me wrong, I am not here to tell you na kailangan sa Monday. Boss, sabi po ni Jonathan. PM, sabi ni Jonathan, I have to say no, di po papasok today. That's not my point. My point is this. The reason why people are able to do things that they want to do is because they're able to say no to small things so that they can say yes to the big things. At the end of the day, the yes is as important as your no. So for example, to give you one more story about this, I come from the airline industry, and one of my favorite stories come from Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines, and by the way, bago ko sabihin Delta Airlines, meron pa ng isang quote niya si Steve Jobs, just to recall. Sabi niya, and this is one of my favorite quotes of all time, I am as proud of what we don't do as I am with what we do. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. Do you appreciate the quote? Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. In other words, if you look at your planner and you have bazillion of things to do, hindi lang po dapat nililista yan. Dapat po ini-edit at nire-review ang listahan na yan. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should do it. Free time does not mean obligation to give up that time as well. For every no that you say, it gains you a yes to something else. And that yes must be something that truly leads you towards success. This was the story of Delta Airlines. Again, one of my favorite stories. I come from the airline industry. In 1994, one of the cabin crew members suggested to management, Boss, wala pong kumakain ng lettuce ng ating mga business class passengers. Can I suggest to please take it out? Initially, management said, why take it out? There's nothing wrong with it. But the management said also, sige, let's experiment. The cabin crew was suggesting, wala pong kumakain, sayang lang po ang ating lettuce. And they were giving that to all passengers. To their surprise, they said, let's take out the lettuce, but let's ask if the passengers are okay with it. They surveyed the passengers after 3 months, and they realized the passengers said, 1, we did not notice that the lettuce is now gone. Or number 2, the passenger said, it's actually okay that the lettuce is gone. The plate looks cleaner and more organized. So management said, wow, this is working. Hindi pala kailangan yung lettuce na yon. So they took out the lettuce again. From 3 months, they extended that to 1 year. And in 1 year, just by taking out the lettuce, Delta Airlines saved $1.4 million. Imagine the savings the company got just because they thought that they had to place the lettuce, but in the grander scheme of things, they didn't need it at all. Can we relate with that in life? Marami tayong ginagawa sa buhay, akala natin kailangan gawin, but if we finally let it go, it frees up our time to do other things that's important for our success. I'll give an example. In the corporate world, and even in the sales world, one thing that most people keep on doing that slows down their productivity is this. And it's their lettuce. Can you make a guess? Across research, across countries around the world. I think someone said it.
Social media.
Marami ba kayong meetings? Marami ba kayong meetings sa team? Okay, so that's one example. It's meetings. Okay? Again, don't get me wrong. Meetings are not bad because meetings help you align. The problem, however, is that we do not know how to decide if something needs to be a meeting or a phone call. A meeting or a face-to-face casual discussion. A meeting or an email. A meeting or a chat. Such that meeting ng meeting buong araw, wala ka nang nagawa. That's your lettuce. Okay? Guilty? In my company, we're also guilty of that. Number 2 complaint, which a lot of organizations talk about, are reports. Report ng report, pero hindi naman binabasa ang report after gawin ang report. Report ng report para lang masabi na may ginawang report. Yes? Reports are important. They're arguably one of the most important things to do in your organization. But please, analyze the report and identify the next steps after you read the report. Those are the lettuce. Please also remember that the lettuce is not just a something, it can also be a someone. That's right. That person who has done nothing in your life but just to suck out your positivity and your energy. Yes?
Ouch.
Yes? Remember, the lettuce could be a someone. And please take note, life is a charity, I get that. Life is all about giving yourselves to others. But life is also an investment. And as you all know in your business, investments are expected to yield returns. And if the person is not yielding that return, it's okay to let that person go. Right? Lahat na lang binigay mo eh. Time, effort, Gcash, lahat. But the person's not giving it back.
Ouch.
So, meron ba nakatamaan? O, sana matamaan po kayo. Yun po ang intention ko. For every no that you say, it gains you a yes to something else. And that yes must be something that truly leads you towards success. Don't be that person who keeps on saying yes. This is the reason why, as much as we want to expand our reach to as many prospects, one important skill of selling is identifying and discerning if this prospect is worth it. I don't care if you talk to 50,000 prospects that morning. If they were not the right target markets, you wasted your morning. But if you spend time upskilling yourself in asking first the right questions on how to identify if this prospect will make it, or being able to network with the right people who can pinpoint you to the right people who likely are the right target markets, you'll be able to manage that. Again, I'm going to get a disclaimer. This is not just working smart, but also working hard. Both are equally important. And if one of them is not present, then cover for the other side. Compensate. Kung hindi ka gwapo, compensate through other things. Diba? Magpayaman ka, mag-aaral ka, lahat. Same thing. Kung hindi ka matalino, sabi nila, if you cannot perform, this is so Gen Z na ha. If you can, this is also Gen X/Gen Y. If you can perform, Japorm. Diba? Kung hindi kaya presentations, kung hindi matalino, hindi magsalita, daan na lang daw sa damit. That doesn't work all the time, but know your limits and compensate where you think you're not good at so you can manage it. I was talking to your BM. If you don't have high net worth individuals in your circle, that's fine. Not everyone's going to be blessed. So saan dadaanin? Dadaanin sa mas madaming contacts. Because prospecting can also be like a raffle. The more entries out there, higher chance of winning. It's a statistical number. Please take note. That's it. Right? So having said that, so my question now is, you have some lettuce in your lives that you can't let go. It could be a process, an activity that you have been doing for the longest time, but in the grander scheme of things, you know that your life is going to get better without it. For every no that you say, it makes you a yes to something else. Okay? Last part. Just want to manage this part. Question. If you have muddy water and you want to make it clear, what are you supposed to do? So, kunyari, in a picture ko ng muddy water, alam yung baso na may mud? Yeah, sweet spot ko. What do you do? Filter? Give me other answers.
Let it sit.
Add more water? Pwede? Ano ba? Lagyan ng iodine. Okay? May mga chemist tayo dito, ah. Ano ba? Question. Do you notice that all of your answers require a lot of effort? Sometimes to the point that you're complicating it.
Let it sit.
Because that is not the best answer. It's not also changing the water.
Let it
involve.
Let it sit.
What do you do? Throw?
Mo lang.
Ano ba?
Let it go. Let it go.
What are the... Pwede. Repurposing, pwede. Game ako dyan. But the correct answer is, you let it still. Because at the end of the day, when you keep it, sorry, hindi nakikita sa drawing. Parang wala nagkaiba, no? Wala nagkaiba sa illustration. That's the change in the
Bababa.
But at the end of the day, if you let muddy water still, the mud is eventually going to settle.
Settle down.
What is my point? Sometimes the best solutions to our challenges is not to add, not to change, not to modify, and not to complicate it. Sometimes the best is to go back to the fundamentals. Back to basics. Back to the simplest things. So I'm gonna ask, sometimes people will say, maybe wala akong kilala kasi, hindi ako ma-network. Maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the problem is you don't know how to ask the right questions when you finally see the prospect right in front of you. Maybe you don't know how to follow up. Or maybe you don't even know your products to begin with, such that magtanong sila about the policy and you can't even answer it properly, you shock. I need to say this. Most of us are so biased to think that the problem is outside. The problem could be ourselves. And it's all about fixing the fundamentals. Fundamentals are with you. Okay? Guilty? Yes? Right? So, no need to complicate things all the time. You can keep it simple, wait and let it settle. May tawag po dyan, is commission bias. The belief na kailangan meron akong babaguhin, meron akong aayusin. When in fact, yung pala, I just need to do the simplest things in order to get it done. Please remember, movement does not always mean progress. And also, just because that you are moving doesn't mean that you're doing something. Being busy does not mean that you are being productive.
Yes! B1000.
By the way, can I make a joke lang? Just for you to appreciate this. If you are in an office, what is the easiest way to make it look like marami kang ginagawa? That's right. You just keep on doing this. May dala kang papel. Because that means you're busy, but you're not productive at all. And again, I keep on saying this. You may be sending so many emails, you may be calling so many people. If you're not talking to the right people in the first place, you're wasting your time. I will always admire someone who's hardworking, but hardworking may not be enough if it doesn't come with the right talent. You have to insert the talent as well. Okay? May quote ako dyan, can I just move this one? May example ako dyan. I came from AirAsia, and in 2012, that was the time when we had a lot of problems about booking flights. If you remember 10 years ago, ang daming kailangan fill up na blanks. If you book a flight, remember that? There were 42 blanks that we need to cover. 42 blanks. So we said to ourselves, in order for us to sell more tickets, we have to simplify the process. So what did we do? We eliminated some blanks. If you recall, in 2012, pati yung passport expiry mo, tsaka passport kung saan ka nag-apply, kailangan mong ibigay yung information na yon. To the point na feeling mo yung kaluluwa mo, binibigay mo na. So we took it out. And the reason for it was is because simplifying things allow people to make decisions better. Okay? Another example, so simplifying steps, it led us to increase our sales by 20%. Another example is this. Ask yourselves, can we take out unnecessary documents? Not always in your control, but sometimes there are things that we complicate ourselves for our customers. Another question to ask, for example, is this. May sweet spot ba ako? Ayan. People, for example, when they need to route something for approval, kailangan ba ganun kadami yung nag-a-approve? For example, I was doing this project for a client in Buenos Aires in Argentina, and it was a simple 20,000 peso approval for a machine or for a software. There were 32 signatories for it, which frustrated people to get the job done. Or number 3, if you have a mobile app or a website, you often ask yourselves, how can I make it so easy so that in one click, people get to decide? Kaya tayo nabubudol sa Lazada or sa Shopee is because they make things easy for us. Agree? The moment you make an account, kailangan one click lang, kailangan i-save agad ang credit card or GCash. And that makes it easy for you, therefore you end up buying as well. This is simplifying. this is taking out the lettuce in our everyday job as well. Here's one more example. Can you tell me what is the stupid requirement that's being asked from us when we renew our passport? Which of the four?
Old pass.
Which of the four? Hindi pwedeng old passport kasi it's required para mag-renew ng passport. Which one? It's the birth certificate. They changed this in 2017, but did you know before 2017, for you to renew your passport, you have to submit your birth certificate. Which doesn't make sense. Why? Kaya nga po may passport na ako is because nag-submit na ako ng birth certificate. So if I have 8 passports, because I fly a lot and I have 8 passports now, I've submitted 8 birth certificates to the DFA. Which doesn't make sense. Nangongolekta po ba kayo ng birth certificate or what? You're only making the person spend more money at the same time. Someone has to call it out. And sometimes, the process is complicated, not because it's intrinsically complicated, but because you have to challenge the architect. And you have to tell them, I'm challenging you, not because I'm a kontrabida, but because I think you can do better than this. This is simplicity. Right? This is simplifying things to make things better. By the way, if you've been to a DFA office, have you been in those queues na may monoblock chair? Tapos kapag uurong na, you ka, ulit. I am the proudest Filipino when I do other things, but this is the lowest that you can do to a Filipino. It's 2023, I think we can do better. You can buy a counter at Lazada, yung 5,000 pesos na, customer, number 1-4. You have that in your BGC office in Sun Life. You can do that also in DFA. And the point is, never be afraid to suggest if you think it will be for the better of everyone. And by the way, can I just highlight this Some people might say, complain ka, pero wala ka namang ambag. Can I just highlight this? Sometimes the complaint itself should suffice. Yes? Ito yung mga examples na, ang bagal ng internet. Tapos sagot, ikaw na lang kayo maging router. No, that's not my point. I'm complaining about the internet because you promised me that it's going to be this fast. My job is to only complain. Your job is to give me proper internet service. So when your customers complain, for example, for anything that you see, it's not because they want to make, remember customers are busy. It's not, the least that they want is to complain. So when they complain, take that as part of your market research, take that as a point of feedback so that you can be better, and you can share that same feedback with your other team members as well. Okay, last. Nag-exercise ako sa clicker na to Last na lang. Okay, last. So just to end this with one video after this, by the way. To talk about customers now, I want you to reflect how you sell and how you do your prospecting. Questions such as, when you do a presentation, and this is your typical, you have your slides, you present what you want to show, what the policy benefits are, what are their, etc. Our mindset is to say, sayang naman, isama ko na tong slide na to. You're only given 10 minutes by the customer to present, and yet, ang kapal ng mukha mo na meron kang 95 slides. You're delusional to think na matatapos mo ang 95 slides. You won't. So I'm gonna please strongly encourage you, when you talk about the first time, you have to limit those slides. Limit it to what you think is the most important. Kaya, kunyari lang second meeting na ito. Kung second meeting na to with a prospect, dapat sa first meeting pa lang, ang dami mo nang napulot na information about who they are. So that in the last second meeting or third meeting, modify the slides according to what they want to hear. Hindi dagdag lang. Another example, yung isingit mo na ganyan, tapos sasabihin mo, gustuhan niya ng customer. To the point na dahil mo dinagdag, or kahit 5 lang yung slides mo, pero 1,000 yung animations. Have you seen those kinds of slides? It's only going to confuse the customer. The more information you jam-pack, the less will the customer absorb. So to give you proof about this, can I do a quick video? Let's not play it yet. I'm gonna give another set of 10 tickets to whoever gets this right. Just raise your hand. I will not ask yet the question, but please watch the video and I will ask something out of it. So let's please play this video. Paki-press ko ang play kung kaya mag-play.
Ayan, so Insidious yung papanoorin natin. But actually, nakakuha tayo ng, ano siya eh, meron dyan, tapos gaganon lang.
Okay.
Indigestion's miserable. I can't wait to get rid of it. So I've got 3 good reasons for using Settlers Tums. First, they're fast and effective. That's because second, they come from Settlers. And third, they come in 3 fruit flavours, orange, lemon and cherry. And they don't taste chalky. All that, and they contain calcium too. Effective and fruit-flavoured Settlers Tums.
Okay, ready for my question? Yes? So that tickets? Raise your hand. Give me the list of all the 9 product features of that brand. I need 9. Okay, yes. The lady in black shirt. Sorry.
Ito,
Okay.
Hello. So I think it is. It has 3 flavors.
Okay.
It's not
Not chalky.
not chalky. It is it's fast. The effect is really fast.
Okay.
What do you call this? It's
5.
it's handy.
4.
It's very
3.
small. No, I can't think of it.
Okay, thank you. But thank you for attempting.
Ayan, at least may clue na sila, di ba? Kasi may tatlo nang
You can
nasabi.
build on other people's answers. Anyone else? Let's get 2 more answers here. It's 9. Technically, it's actually 11, but I'm gonna make it easy. It's 9. Okay, go ahead.
May someone?
Shoutouts na lang. Anyone? Was it difficult? Is my question difficult? Yes? Anyone?
Ayun.
Okay, one more. Sige, one more. Sige, if you get this right, I'll add 1,000 pesos. Seryoso. Go.
It is effective. That's this one. It has 3 flavor, which is cherry, lemon, and
Oy.
and then
Okay.
just
Isa lang yun na yung flavors na yun. Hindi pa yung gawin tatlo yung flavors na yun.
lemon,
Pa lang nalibigay mo.
and orange.
It's effective, it has 3
And
flavors.
then it's calcium rich.
Calcium rich, very good.
It's handy.
Okay.
It's easy, chewable,
Okay, sige.
uh,
Chewy, okay.
chewy.
Not choky.
Oh, is that
5, 4.
Choky. It came from
And
Settlers.
then fast acting,
Okay.
Effective.
Fast and effective. Sige, I'll give you the effective na rin. Sige.
and then
4 pa. Okay, one last attempt. Sige, game.
Marian, papapasa ng...
Oh, sige, ito. This one. Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Ayan. Tayo ka, iba yung angulo. Tektosan mo.
hello.
Ayan, okay.
Siguro isa-isa flavors.
The flavors are only one. Hindi siya pwedeng sabihin
Ah,
sila.
okay.
Yan.
3 flavors. It's not chalky. It's chewy. It's fast acting. It says as well that it's the best because it came from Settlers. That's
Okay.
Oh my God, that's 5.
Okay, I need 4 more.
It's calcium rich.
Okay.
Effective.
It's ano yun yung portable?
Hand.
The other term. Handy.
Okay.
Flavored. Yun long flavor.
5, 4.
Rich in calcium. Portable.
That's it. Sige. Okay. Guys. Sige, thank
Actually,
you.
may last.
Okay, sige, one more. Okay, game. One last. Because I have to
Last.
end the workshop also. Okay, go ahead.
Number one po, it came from settlers itself. Number two, rich in calcium. It has 3 flavors. Number 3, orange, lemon, and cherry. It's non-chewable.
It's now, sorry?
Chewy.
Not chocolate, okay.
Chewable.
Chewable,
Next,
okay.
effective. Number 5. Number 6, it's handy. 7, fast active, effective, and then good for indigestion.
Hindi, I can't take the last one because that's not mentioned. And that's a given. I can't. Yeah. Anyone? Sige, one last na lang talaga ha because okay lang sa akin. Gusto nga alas 8 to. Pwede rin. Diba? Last one. Sige.
Number 1 is it's effective and fast acting. Number 2, it comes with different colors. Third is
Colors is not part of it.
Different flavors.
Okay.
It doesn't have a negative effect in the stomach.
No, that's not part. That wasn't. Don't invent things. It's not.
Not chalky.
Okay.
With calcium.
Okay.
Handy. It's chewy. Handy. It's chewy.
Okay.
It's made by Bicham,
Okay.
trusted company.
Nag-golfer.
Then,
Actually, 7 pa lang.
Tawag yung golfer.
Sige. I need to pause na. Thank you. Sige.
We have no winner.
I need to pause because we'll keep on going like this. My point is this. That was difficult, right? Because at the end of the day, you really will not be able to manage so much information in a small amount of time. That's what you're doing to your customers. Imagine a 15-minute or a 10-minute conversation and you're bombarding them for the first time. Certain concepts and terms. You really think that they're going to say yes in the first meeting? Of course not. Usually you're able to make them sign on the 4th or 5th call. Yes? But my point is this. You cannot afford to say too many things. Because saying too many things is going to make them be confused or in the end say, next week na lang, next year na lang, next month na lang. You have to simplify. This is why the last portion of the talk is about simplifying things. So when I talk about simplifying, and here's my last slide, knowing who your prospect is so important. It's so underrated, but I get surprised. A lot of people in sales tend to underestimate the power of segmenting who their customers are. We often keep on thinking insurance is insurance, everyone needs it. You just need to talk about what's going to be the benefit and that's it. It doesn't work that way. You have to understand the psychology, why the person was interested to meet up with you. For example, there are going to be people, can I give you an example of someone who needs an insurance policy? One psychographic, a breadwinner. Very good. Given yan dapat. So meaning, if you know that the person is a breadwinner, the story, the focus of the discussion is about protecting their dependents. Focus on it. It's nice to say other things, but you can reserve that later on if the person is willing to extend their time. But if you only have 5 to 10 minutes, if it's all about being a breadwinner, dapat dependents ang focus mo. What does the dependent get? What do I give? What are the requirements? How much time is needed to invest, etc. If you don't get to answer that from their perspective, you won't be able to make the cut. Right? So the first one, ayaw pa rin gumana. Can I ask to move it na lang, please? Can you please move the slide? Yeah. So breadwinner, can you please move it again? So focus on dependence. Can you give me one more category for prospect?
W.
Professionals, ano pa? Okay, later na yun. Can I add, for example, in this case, a high net worth individual? Okay? So for example, exactly. Right. So the story of a high net worth individual is, sige, hindi na ginig. So meaning, kailangan sagot, hindi alam ng iba. Can I just challenge you? A high net worth individual does not really have issues about their money. And neither are they gonna do it because they want to have future protection. Because likely, meron na silang nagawa about that. What are they using insurance for? For estate planning. Focus the story on that. And sometimes, these people, in your first 10 minutes, that's what they want to hear. Okay? Focus on that. Third, give me another example. Ano pa? Can you give a third? Ito, mas general ito. It could be a corporate person, it could be a millennial, etc. Give me a personality category. Yappy, extrovert. Grabe, so kailangan extroverts lang yung pwede kumuha ng insurance. Hindi po pwedeng introverts.
Ambivert.
Anxious. Third, that ito a positive term. Because technically you can say anxious people, based on science, are likely to get insurance policies. Right?
Happy.
Give me a positive term for that.
Adventurous.
They're future-oriented. That's right. Right? That's my term. Future-oriented. These are, and guys, I hope you notice this. Most people who get a policy are people who always think about what might happen in the future. Important yan. You need to hook that. You need to be sensitive in knowing that. Ito yung mga example na, uy, mag-alas 6 na. Uy, may plano ako this Friday. Uy, may gagawin ako this Monday or this month. Future-oriented. Future-oriented people are always specific about that part. And when I say future-oriented, and I just ask the folks to please click this, and they're focused on hedging future events. So, an example niyan, critical illness. It could be for themselves or for someone else. At better yan ha, kasi pwedeng rider pa yan. Diba? Or pwedeng separate policy pa yan. For example. What's my point? So this is my point. I get disappointed. Right? And I'm saying this because why I am a solid Sun Life policy owner, I also own policies with other insurance companies. And I really get to compare how they talk to you. And I get disappointed sometimes na kilala na niya ako, and yet paikot-ikot pa rin ang usapan when the person knows what I'm looking for. At pinapatagalan. And sometimes, your customers can just be polite and say, sige na nga, makikinig na lang ako. Titingin ako sa phone, or pag naka-Zoom, for example, kaya nakikinig, pero you're not listening because you don't want to hear these things. You want to focus on what you want to hear. Problem is, if you do not study exactly what they want to hear, you will not be able to share with them what you want to show. You have 30 slides. Choose which slide is the most important to be shown to that specific customer because you have properly identified what type of prospect they are. If the person you're talking to is a high net worth individual, don't show the slides that are not interesting for them. Can I give an example of that? Before we end? Like, if money is not an issue for them, you don't need to make them look like conscious sila sa pera. And sometimes they will get irritated. Sometimes they will be turned off. Sometimes they will feel like this person has judged me. For example. Right? If the issue is about breadwinner, and I want to highlight this, if the person's a breadwinner, try to ask things such as, what's the name? Example to ha, one important tip. What's the name of their children or what's the name of their parents? Why? Scientifically proven. In the next discussions, if you keep on repeating their names, they get reminded who they're buying it for. So Mrs. Santos, for sino nga po yung 5-year-old nyo? Si Cherry O. For Cherry O, for example, the benefits that Cherry may get are X, Y, and Z. It makes it more powerful. It makes it more resounding. Okay? I'll give you one more tip in selling, for example. Do not ask open-ended questions. So for example, like, ma'am, ano po bang hinahanap ninyo? Right? Gosh, guys, don't ask that. Because I'm going to be looking for so many things. So the best way is to give them options. Ma'am, I have 4 things or 3 things that I think suits you. Here's option 1. And then let them choose. When Microsoft wants you to update to Microsoft 12, it does not ask you, do you want to update? Right? Or how do you want to? It doesn't ask. What does it ask? Do you want to update now or update later? Why? It's a psychological trick. It's making you want to update, but it's making you look like you have a choice, even when you don't have a choice. So same thing also here. Don't give them, it's nice to give them options, of course, but I would appreciate it as a busy person, for example, if you lay out what options that are good for me. Lay it out. Okay? For example, iibahin ko lang yung example para na ma-appreciate nyo this advice. For example, real estate. Kunyari lang, real estate. We often tell people in real estate, do not ask the customer, ma'am, what do you think of the unit? It's a bad question. Why? The person, if they're too polite, will say it's nice, even if it's not. Number two, they will not give specific answers because they don't want to give away too much info for now. So if you want to really know their pulse, instead of asking, what do you think of the unit? You ask them, ma'am, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think of the unit? And now you're forcing them to give them a number. If their answer is, my answer is 6. Okay, kung 6 po ang sagot ninyo, what can I offer to you to make it jump from number 6 to number 9? And now the customer is forced to give other amenities na feeling niya kulang. So same thing also for you. So let's say, for example, if you're talking to a high net worth individual, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you now on how you're managing your funds or how you're managing your properties? And from there you ask, okay, number 7, number 6. If your answer is number 6, is there anything that you're looking for that can jump from number 6 to number 9? And then enter the conversation from there afterwards. But the ultimate goal, kailangan you have to study the customer. Don't just jump into the forest and then you miss out the trees or the forest. Okay, are we good? Yes. Okay, I wish I can do more, but I need to end the session now. And with that, I'm gonna open the floor for any questions if you have any other questions. Tayong katanungan.
Rest of time, let's do 2 questions. Ako yung isa. Ako siguro, it's not actually a question, it's a request. Can you run us through what did you do, what did you sacrifice for you to be able to win the Apprentice Asia? Kahit quick lang, what did you do? Kasi it's obviously probably the toughest battle of your life, given the resources that you have during that time. Hindi ka pa ganun kagaling nun. For sure. For sure. You have learned a lot through time. So what did you do? What did you sacrifice for you to be able to win that Apprentice Asia?
Okay. First, mindset. Meaning, I know that this is going to be the only opportunity I'll probably have in my life. So it's a do or die. So from my end, so one thing that I did was time. I knew that it was a TV show, and before the TV show aired, there were other franchises already aired. Apprentice US, Apprentice, etc. So before I came to the show and flew to Kuala Lumpur, I watched all 1,028 episodes of all other Apprentice franchises. All Apprentice Season 1 to Season 14 of US. All Season 1 to Season 9 of UK. Apprentice, I downloaded on torrents illegally all the subtitles for Apprentice Italy, Apprentice Spain. And the reason for that is because I was such a big fan. Plus, I knew that there was a pattern. In every episode, they were recycling. Episode 1, in Apprentice US, they recycled the same scripts for Apprentice Australia. When I was in the show, I realized they were also recycling the same thing. So meaning, kung ano yung task, inuulit nila sa task yun. Why is that important? That familiarity bred confidence because I said to myself, alam ko mangyayari dito. So even if things were different, I told to myself, I think I can win it. Because I know what other people are gonna do and I know what the judge is gonna look for. That confidence bred to success eventually. And again, you might think of you might say that 1,028 episodes is not hard. It is hard. And copying down notes. So what I did also was, pag boardroom na, I hope you guys are familiar with the show somehow, with the format. So every time tapos na ang task, you have to go back to the boardroom and he has to ask you questions of what happened in the boardroom. So, banata ng salita. Whoever is the most vocal and the person who's able to defend themselves will stay, the weaker are gonna be taken out. So in my case, every time I was watching Apprentice US, I would pause kapag nagtanong na yung then I will pretend to be a contestant. And then I will answer the question. Then after I answer it, I will compare my answer now to the answers of the other contestants. Until I get the hook of, this is the right way of answering this question if ever it's asked in the show. And interestingly, a lot of the questions were recycled in Apprentice Asia also. So,
That's the first one, mindset
preparation.
and preparation.
Preparation. I'm saying this because a lot of us, when we talk to a customer, we often think to a prospect, I'm gonna win this. Diba? Ayaw ko to, ilang beses mo nagawa. Yes, ilang beses mo siya nagawa. But sometimes you have to prepare what questions to ask. Or simple things such as, research the person on the internet. Right? Check their social media accounts. What are they into? Do they have a family? Don't make it sound like you're a stalker, of course. But knowing things already about who they are will allow you to filter it. Itong question na to, feeling ko, dito important. I'll skip this question na. Kasi ganito na siya. It makes things easy for you in that case. Can I also add other things? I remember. Yes, I was about to say that. The Apprentice Asia is not about who's the smartest. It's not about who's the most vocal in the show. It's also about what happens behind the camera. So in every episode, just for example, if this was an episode, there are 16 cameras. You just don't see it, but that's because they have to capture each and every emotion. So it's really exhausting. People also don't notice this. Ang init lagi because there are so many lights around. We're only given 4 hours of sleep almost every day. And I think my theory is sinasadya nila yun para wala kang energy the next day. Because if people are exhausted, maraming drama na pwede mangyari. More drama means more entertainment for the show. So pag galit ang mga tao, mas mag-away ang mga contestants. And they want to show that. In the last few episodes, I thought, okay, this is it. It's the last huddle. And I thought to myself, the winner of the show is not going to be the smartest guy. The winner of the show is the guy who had the most amount of sleep, the most nutritious breakfast, the best physical stamina to get through. And I'm saying this because you cannot just look at what happens in front. You have to look at what happens at the back as well. So in my case, the last two episodes, I only got 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, I remember. At the last episode, nagbaon kasi ako ng extra jaws. And that's because we need extra energy. So I would get a mineral water bottle. Kapag pwede na mag-break, I would go in a washroom, natago ako, jaws, inumin ko siya. Because in the next 2 hours, doon mo kailangan yung energy. And I think I won, not because of extra jaws, of course, but because I was smart and to know I have to be strategic to whatever happens in the show. It's not just about what happens in front of the camera. I have to be strategic about everything. Dagdag ko pa, kinaibigan ko lahat ng mga cameramen. Why is that important? The cameramen have the power to decide which are going to shoot. So kunwari, 16 kayo sa isang kwarto, may nakita silang may nag-aaway. Si cameraman, pupunta siya doon. Kasi gusto niyang mahuli yung awayan. That's extra points for him as a cameraman. Sometimes, if you make a really bad mistake, gustong-gusto ni cameraman yan. Kasi pag nahuli niya yon, i-report niya sa producers, and the producers will make a story out of it. Because I was good friends with a lot of the camera guys, I had so many mistakes in the show that they did not capture. And they did not report. And this is where I'm gonna highlight and connect this, that relationships are so important. More than anything else. Of course, was I cheating? Of course not. It's their job. It's everyone's job to be able to find a way to get it done. So, it's all by random and luck kapag nahuli ka. When I say nagkamali ka, for example, like, mali yung sinabi mo kay customer during the show, and the customer didn't like it. So, if it was a bad thing, they can report it, they may not report it. Kung nahuli siya ng camera, bad. Kung hindi, better for you. But my point is, because I was able to manage those relationships, I was able to get through and had lesser reported mistakes. Remember, Tony Fernandez did not know what was happening. The judge does not know what happens because he's not part of the entire. Each episode is shot for 3 days. So he's not always there all the time. How does he find out? Someone reports. Someone follows you down to your bedroom. So we have one person sleeping beside you the entire time. One person. Siyempre, hindi sa same kama, sa baba. So, kailangan sila na doon.
Akala ko nagka-instant jowa ka doon.
Kailangan siya nakahiga because he needs to know, kasi sometimes people might do something to themselves. So even the scissors and the knives are taken away from the kitchen afterwards. So all these things. So for me, look at the environment and what do you make the most out of the environment and the relationships because they will determine how you end up performing also. Kasi sa atin parang, okay, product knowledge, check. Sige. The ability to send emails fast, check. Sige. All of those are important. Yes. But on top of that, it's also about your networks, the people, your ability to charm, your ability to make contact, even the small follow-ups. For example, That's important.
Okay. Ayun. Maraming